Hello and welcome guys, it's Gugus here, and today we're going to be talking about an interview that was featured on DAVEvsAxie channel, and he spoke to Jiho, who is one of the developers at Axie Infinity, for about an hour, and I'm going to bring in some of the key points that they have mentioned, as well as plans for 2022, and we will try to answer the question whether it's still worth to invest into Axie Infinity in 2022. Starting off with the first section, what we want to mention is that Jiho has purchased a land in Axie Infinity for $2 million. I believe it was over $2 million. Now, as we know, land in Axie Infinity is very, very scarce. You can't get land. There's only 829 plots for sale. If you go into Mystic Land, there's only a couple of them for sale. If you go for Genesis Land, there's only a couple of them for sale as well. Only 5 actually, with the cheapest one being at $2 million. So land in Axie Infinity, even though it doesn't have any gameplay, it is very scarce, and there's only a quarter of land actually released, and the first quarter is going to be the best one to purchase. So Jiho has purchased his own land for $2 million, which has led into other people buying land. One other person which has seen the news of Jiho buying decided to buy a Genesis plot as well for over $2 million. So 2 very expensive plots were purchased on the same day, and let's see what Jiho has to mention about that purchase.
That's awesome. And obviously you made a big boy purchase. You spent roughly 2 million USD on one of Flying Falcon's 9 Genesis plots. So 2 questions on that. One, I'm sure you're super excited for lands, and I'm sure you were bummed too not to be able to play around with it. But at the same time too, what's your expectation around that purchase? Like, was it just to have kind of that stakehold of one of the rarest assets in the entire game? Are you actually expecting an ROI on it, or just kind of the future value you're anticipating to be more and maybe sell it one day to retire on or something?
Yeah, sure. Like I think like everything in the Axie community, and ecosystem, it's a combination of things, right? Like Coco was generously letting me hold one of his Genesis plots last year during the alpha, and I was able to hang out. I was able to play with it, and then this year, like I got a DM from him saying like, "Hey man, like send me the Genesis." So send me the Genesis back. I can't remember why. He had some good reason that he needed it back. So then I was like, oh, like I didn't have a Genesis, right? Like I was not a wealthy person, when we launched land for the first time, so finally, right? Like it seemed I talked to Flying Falcon, and we kind of made it happen, right? So I think it's going to be amazing for me to have my own land to, right, just kind of show off in the community, to show off maybe my favorite Axies, my best land items. Yeah. Also, obviously, right? Like, there is some hope for, right, like harvesting awesome resources and tokens through that land. So it's a combination of things, right? And just having a lot of fun with it. Like I felt like it was something.
Next section that I want to talk about when it comes to Battles V2 is the new cards. Now in Discord, as I have mentioned in my previous video, Jiho has mentioned new cards coming to Dusk, Dawn, as well as mech cards. Now he has quickly pulled back on that statement, not being able to disclose any actual arguments or evidence that new cards will be employed. But in this interview, he hints that there will be new cards, but he can't really specify whether that's going to be for Dusk, Dawns, or mechs, or whether there's going to be a new whole card system, which is going to be for the competitive play, or there's going to be a whole new card system to incentivize people to breed again a new creative and interesting Axies. I personally think they're going to introduce some new cards. I don't think it's going to be a full set for Dawn mechs and the special classes. I think there's just going to be a revamp in the current cards, as well as a couple of more cards added, maybe for the eyes and ears parts as well. Maybe you're going to be able to choose between the 4 cards that you have from the 6 that are potentially in play. Maybe that's one of the ways to look at it. Maybe they're going to introduce a whole set of one special class Axie and then add on later on. That might be one of the ways, but let's see what Jiho had to say in the interview when it comes to new cards being employed in Axie Infinity Battles V2.
And so everyone saw the question where someone was like, hey, is there going to be secret parts that you can get? Your response was yes, but then you came back and it was like, hey, I don't know. I wanted to allow you, do you want to clarify one way or the other if you have any insight to it?
It's like yes and no, if that makes sense. Like, because I confused myself because, yeah, like some stuff that I've seen. So I guess like I'll say is I think like secret class parts would be cool. I think we definitely want to release more parts in the future, and I think like it would make sense for secret classes to be a thing. But I also so there was yeah like it also like like I'm gonna get in trouble, but like what else to say this has something to do. My confusion, my lack of clarity on this has something to do with starter Axies. So.
Lovely.
I'll give you a leak. I'll give you maybe a little bit of a leak that I might get in trouble for to explain why I gave kind of two different answers to that question.
Okay, I appreciate it. That's very exciting.
Another point that I wanted to quickly mention is Axie merch. Now, there's no official merch on Axie Infinity website. There is Axie Infinity merch that you can get when you go to like the gathers and the meetups with Axie Infinity developers. They're gonna give them out on those meetups, but you can't really purchase it for yourself, which is a bit of a shame because some people want to represent the Axie Infinity community on the social medias, like the Twitter, like the Instagram, like the Axie sisters. They could be promoting that, and it's free promotion, right? Someone's gonna purchase the merch, you're gonna get some money for it, and they're gonna sponsor and promote it on their own social medias to their own community and to their own fan base. So you're kind of missing out on free marketing. And so releasing Axie merch could be another step forward when it comes to growing the community and making other games or the gamers aware of the project. And they have mentioned that they will release Axie merch, but they don't really give a specific date. It's not a section that's worth mentioning for a long period of time, but I just wanted to pop that in here. That might be coming as well.
We're able to accomplish that, but I think this year is going to definitely be a lot about making the game more fun and focusing on content. But yeah, I think like merch is super important aspect of the community. And yeah, like, you know, we see our community members also like making awesome shirts for themselves, but I think there's also demand for official, you know, I'll say quote unquote official Axie merch.
Now, going back to Battles V2, which is the thing that we want to focus on, and this is going to be the game changer. This is essentially going to be a whole new game. G-Host does mention new SLP Burn Mechanics, which could be coming into the game. The first SLP Burn Mechanic that he mentions is Axie Crafting. So you're going to be able to send your Axie out to harvest some resources when land gameplay is out, and then you can use those crafting resources to either craft new parts, or you can start burning and using them for emotes as well as like emojis, so you can use those stickers and emojis in game to troll your opponents. This is the one thing that he mentions, which does give out a better vibe in the game. You can create highlights on YouTube from those outplays. You can start trolling your opponents, make some funny videos about it, and it's just going to be a better vibe when you are playing the game. You can send them out a sticker like GG easy when you win the game, when it clearly wasn't easy, but you just want to be a dick about it. You could do that with the new emotes that are coming into the game in 2022. Hopefully.
It's been leaked a little bit by Ziori. You've talked about it before, that it's like it's coming. It's obviously needed at some point. Is that a V2 look? Is that a LAN look? Is it a pre both of those venture? Because we've talked about as you go to V2, there's going to be new metas and there's going to be a ton of breeding going on, but there is inevitably going to be some bad Axies bred with the mutations added that will need to, you know, end of life them. So any thoughts on that, like the token that might generate from it and what you're going to use the remains of a released Axie for?
So we take Axie crafting really seriously, and I think one of the things that kind of has frustrated me, and maybe it's part of my failing communicating to the community, or our failing communicating to the community, is that Axie sync, Axie crafting, Axie burn, like where I'm going to use a burn in quotes because Axies will not be killed in this process. Right. So this is something that we've been thinking about since 2018. We came from the CryptoKitty community where, right, like exponential hyperinflation kind of killed that game. So we've always been thinking about, okay, how do we make sure that, right, like there's enough demand for Axies? How do we make sure that the Axie population doesn't get too out of control relative to the demand from the community? So this is something that we take really seriously, but it's also because we take it so seriously, it's not something that we're going to rush into implementing. But yeah, I think like definitely with V2, there come major opportunities for alternative sources, right, to basically maybe, right, release Axie, get crafting material, use that crafting material to upgrade that Axie, or even buy things like stickers or emotes, right, that you can use to troll people while you're fighting.
And the last couple of sections are really the cherry on top when it comes to Battles V2, and those sections make me very, very excited for what Axie Infinity has in store for us for the next upcoming year. In 2021, Jiho has mentioned a couple of times that this year was about building the fundamentals. In this year alone, they have went from 10,000 or 20,000 daily active users all the way to 2.5 million daily active users. They have transferred all of the Axie Infinity content from the Ethereum network to the Ronin network, the Ronin chain in April, which has caused a huge spike. They have built up better servers so that the Axie Infinity game can keep going, like we have seen the spike in August, disturbing the servers and people not being allowed to play. So 2021 was about building fundamentals, and in 2022 is going to be about releasing new gameplay content, which Jiho has mentioned in this interview. But the one thing that he does also mention is special ports. We could be seeing new ports for Axies, we could be seeing upgrades, we could be seeing rerolls. He does hint at that very, very strongly, that there will be new incentive to keep breeding the Axies, to get better Axies for the breeding. There could be a level up system. If you go into the marketplace right now, each port does say level 1, and when it does say level 1, that means there might be a level up system for those particular parts, which are going to play a different role or a different function within the game itself.
Origin, MEO, Mystics, and there's been a bunch of exciting things in between there. Is there things coming for those soon? Obviously, Mystics are still holding a very high floor. Some of the others have kind of dropped down, but there's always been kind of that tease that they're going to have more utility in some way, or just it might just be limited for aesthetics. Is that kind of more coming towards V2 land? Any thoughts on that?
Sure. So there are two reasons that you would own something like a Mystic, an Origin, MEO, Holiday Axies, right? One is just like scarcity. You know that they have like predefined scarcity, and then and they have cap supplies, and then there's the flex, right? Just being able to say, hey, like I own a Mystic, right? Like I'll probably respond to you like pretty quickly. Like if you're an Axie community member that like messages me or tries to reach out to me and you have a Mystic, right? There's certain utility too, right? Around like the social capital, right? There's utility within the community for being seen as a long-term thinker, someone, a connoisseur of nice collectible Axies. I'll also say that, yeah, like, definitely we're seeing a trend in NFTs for more utility around these scarce, beautiful assets. And I think, so if you guys read some of my early writings from 2018, I did write that, right, like the triple threat, the thing that brings massive value to an NFT is a combination of utility, scarcity, and aesthetics, right? So I think right now we have with the scarcity aspect of these things is quite well defined. In some cases, the aesthetics is also like nice, but maybe like could be upgraded. And then around the utility, it's still not as well defined. And I think that's something that we're also like thinking hard about. There are different ways to do that. That could be in game. That could be even through the network, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So and it could be like something like, I don't know, like we're seeing like cool stuff, experiments right now around like merch drops, right? Where if you own a certain NFT, like you can get access to exclusive merch. Like what kind of utility is that, right? Like some people would really like that. Some people that's not really their style. So but I think like in general, rewarding collectors is really important. Making collecting Axies, right? Like kind of part of hypebeast culture. I think that's one of the things that we need to spend more time on, and also some of the new personnel that we've added to the team, right? Like Jeff K from Discord, right? Like he was a product manager. He's now like working on the marketplace. I think like if additions like that are also super key for that.
The thing that I'm about to mention makes me insanely excited for Axie Infinity, and that is the inbuilt scholar rental system. They are working on that, and they have mentioned that they want to push that out within the Axie Infinity so that there's no more bans for managers when the scholars decided to go multi-account. There's not going to be any issues like that, because the scholarship system is not Axie Infinity. It is people outside of the game allowing the NFTs to be put into play by people that can't afford the team, right? But it's not built into the game itself. And a lot of games that are coming up within the NFT play to earn economy right now do have an inbuilt rental system, and that's where people start seeing threats for Axie Infinity. But as Jiho mentions that, I think Axie Infinity is still going to be safe. They can see those threats coming in and they can implement that in their own game. So having a Scholar rental system is going to make it so much easier for people to rent, because it's all going to be on the chain. You don't have to look for those people. They can just rent it out from you within the game, which is going to make it much easier for guilds to build up the Scholars. Right now, if you want to deploy 1,000 or 2,000 Scholars, like I work with a couple of guilds that want to do that, it is insanely difficult to go through all of these applications to get those people, get them started within the game, get all of those treasure accounts set up, buy all of these Axies. It's a very long process, whereas with the Scholar rental system, it could speed the things up and it could make more people excited for the game again to start earning, and it could bring very big investors into the game.
Get in trouble. That right, we are working on our own internal system and tools for scholarships. We think it's really important. I have, I don't know, 500 Axies. I would love to have Scholars. Like, I want to go through that experience. It's just like I can't justify making that time commitment right now when it's like very manual. So I think that's also going to be a huge growth catalyst. I think it's really important for the entire ecosystem. And yeah, there's awesome progress being made on that internally.
Awesome.
Another thing that could bring investors into the game and allow people to test out the Scholars before they give them a team is Battles V2 free to play. Now, this is something that's going to be very crucial. Right now, if you want to test out whether the Scholar is knowledgeable about the game, all you can do is ask them questions or give them your team for a trial, whether that's 1 week, 2 week, and see how they do in the games. They can send you replays from the games, but you still have to make that commitment. Whereas if they make free to play Axie Infinity in Axie Origins, you can test out a Scholar, you can 1v1 them, they can use the free Scholar, the free Axies that they have to fight you, and then you can see what kind of level they are playing at, and then you can either select a team for that level, or you can not select them for your Scholar, which is going to make the process so much easier, and it's also going to get people excited about the game, because right now, if you want to test out the game, you have to invest $500. I mean, you can watch some videos, but that's not the same as playing the game, right? So if you can test it out for yourself with free to play, it's going to be much easier of a process to then invest and buy some NFTs if you actually enjoy the game without having to invest first. So that's a huge step when it comes to Axie Infinity 2022.
Alongside that, any comments or chatter about like what's next with V2 or Scholar rental system has been teased before by
Sure.
the team, I think, in the summertime?
Yeah, so those are actually separate things. But yeah, like let's talk about V2 first. V2's it looks amazing. It's really fun. I think it's faster, more skill based, and it's going to be something that's way more accessible. Crucially, it's going to supercharge the ecosystem, because right now, right, I try to get people to play Axie all the time. That's actually kind of my job, right? Yeah. So I understand like the steps like pretty well, right? So right now it's like if you want to start playing Axie, you have to go through a weird kind of process where, okay, like you can, even if you have the money to buy a team, you then have to basically you then have to like, okay, like figure out what is the meta. How do you figure out the meta? Watch all these streamers and right, like walk you through the game. You basically have to start buying assets for a game that you've never played before and have only kind of, you know, either read guides or watched people stream. With free to play, you'll be able to fall in love with the game, fall in love with the art, understand the mechanics, you know, do some progression before you either buy your own set of Axies or apply for a scholarship, right? So this is also gonna, we mentioned scholarship briefly too around this question. I think that having free to play is actually also gonna be super key for managers to be able to weed out like serious scholars, because then you're like, hey, like how far have you progressed in the free to play aspect of the game? So yeah, I think like V2 is really important. I think that a lot of the work that has to be done or is remaining around it is around card balancing, making sure that there's like a really thriving competitive scene around it, and then also the reward loops and making sure that it's going to impact our economy in an awesome way that makes the community extremely happy.
And in this last clip, Gihos mentions the 2022 plans that they have, what they want to focus on, the content that they want to bring out, and I'm gonna spend that time to bring some of my thoughts as well. I think Axie Infinity had a massive 2021. A lot of people have heard about the game. They are the pioneers in NFT play to earn games. There are a lot of projects that are coming up within the space, but none of them are a threat right now. Even though the AXS price is getting lower, even though the SLP price is getting lower, there is currently not that much incentive to start breeding. That is true. There's not an SLP Burn Mechanic, but Jiho has mentioned that the SLP Burn Mechanic is not necessary until there is an Axie sync. I strongly believe that 2022 is gonna bring a crap load of content into Axie Infinity, whether that's land gameplay or that's Battles V2. We're gonna see Axies have more utility and have more use, and I'm myself gonna pick up some of the floor Axies. Hopefully they're gonna bring back me into ROI. Even though they are $70, $100 Axies, they should be getting some utility as well. They have hinted at Dawn Axie getting some upgrades and some love as well, so that might be a way to invest into the game as well. But I think 2022 with Axie Origins, with the free-to-play, with the rental system, with the part upgrades, with the crafting system, I think all of that combined within 1 year can make this game explode and can make people start loving the game. And I think we're gonna see a huge grow in players that play the Axie Infinity game daily. And that's just my closing thoughts. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think Axie Infinity will look like in 2022. I don't think it's a dead game. Even though the SLP price right now is pretty low, if you get a $500 meta team, you still get your ROI in about 3 to 4 months, which is insanely good if you think outside of the crypto spectrum. Where else can you get your ROI in 3 to 4 months? Pretty much nowhere, right? So this project is still gonna be big. I believe in it and I think it's worth investing, but that's just my opinion. It's not financial advice. So I'm gonna leave you there. If you have enjoyed this episode, let me know in the comment section down below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, like I think like the theme of this year is like making the game more fun by releasing strategic content. So yeah, like I think V2, like I think is going to be really important to our direction this year. And yeah, then I think like you know, getting more yeah, you know, getting land, making massive progress on land that is very visible and hopefully testable and playable by the community. I think that's also going to be really important. And then also you know, taking a step to secure the Ronin the Ronin network. It's kind of like the Ronin community now, right? Like we have like 80,000 people farming Ron, I think.
And what, 5 tattoos, 6 tattoos? I don't even know how many tattoos we have now.
So yeah, to make also like start right like.